everybody have a safe day. Be careful. And if it does get warm, check on other people, make sure they're healthy, and, just take care of other people. Just take care of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think what Wednesday was a perfect example of that. We're like a big family here on WJOB, and I'm glad everything worked out. I'm glad that you're back and eating giant banana split sundaes. And you have a good day, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, everybody have a wonderful day. Bye.
Okay, thank you. So I think I forget.
Good to hear him.
Was he talking about the chicken law? Was it Cherville or somebody was looking at doing it?
It was Cherville was looking to change or modify an ordinance which would basically allow folks to have chickens in their backyards.
Mm-hmm. Which, because again, just like fishing, it's like, wait, I need a law to, like, the default was have chickens, and then without government you couldn't have chickens.
Well, and this is where I would differ with you.
Okay.
On this one here. I was a no vote in Dyer for chickens last year.
Get out. Get
out.
Why would you be against chickens? It's like saying you can't have a dog. I
love dogs.
Or a squirrel or something.
I don't think they belong in residential suburban settings.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, because the statute of limitations has expired. I did keep a chicken in Dyer when we were kids.
So
one chicken. Not 10, not 20, but one chicken, and he was less trouble than a dog.
I will step back from that comment to say, when folks were starting to come say, hey, we want this, here was my take on it is, look, we have an ordinance in Dyer that prohibits the harboring of chickens and farm animals. And
you're harboring chickens
harboring
again,
them.
Aren't you? You're harboring chickens under your
and
your
so
floorboards.
This is what I said. Our code enforcement is not out there knocking on doors checking for chickens.
Yeah.
It's not
yet.
Dyer chicken ice.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that. So have your chickens. If they're not a problem and everybody loves them, nobody will say anything. If they're a problem, then you want me to change the law for you because you know it's a problem.
The problem is, though, is that there's always that one person in the neighborhood that's like, they see the chicken one time and they're like, oh, there's a chicken here. It's like there's people that they go on Facebook and go, my neighbor doesn't have a tall enough fence around the pool. Like, well, how do you know? I measured. Like, you went outside and measured your neighbor's fence. Like, how?
We
always
have those.
There's always one person. But that's the whole point, is that government should not let it. We should not be ruling by I always say it's the vocal minority, right? There's these vocal minority and not, a minority number of people. There are these people that show up at your meeting, like 3 people show up and say, hey, the chicken thing is out of control. And you're like, okay, maybe it is. And that's the problem, is that when nobody shows up at meetings, you go, oh, well, 3 people are upset about this. It must be a problem. Like, no, it's not. Just there's 3 crazy people in your town. Those are the same ones that want you to build bike trail roundabouts on top of the train.
We had that, but I would say to the opposite. We had a handful of folks that came in, wanted to do this. It was not the majority of the opinion of the residents of Dyer to have them. What I took with it was, it's not the Dyer of 60, 80 years ago.
Okay.
These are established subdivisions with half of our subdivisions, they're new, there's no fences. You can't have that. You have to have some way to contain the chickens.
Right,
you just
agreed.
Have to, and the reason I say that is because we didn't allow chickens before, you voluntarily, buying a house is a voluntary transaction. You took it upon yourself. So moving into Dyer that I can't have chickens, but you also move into Dyer knowing that, hey, I'm not going to be bothered by chickens. And so now all of a sudden I've got my little yappy dog, and then my neighbor gets chickens, and now my dog's yapping all the time. But who gets in trouble for that? The dog owner, not the chicken owner. I had a lot of issues with the idea that it's not a farm community. You want that, go to a farm community.
How about chicken zones? How about you create a chicken TIF district? And you say if you live south of south of 30, you can have chickens if you have at least 1 acre. Like, can we carve out some exemptions?
Well, and that's where Cherville came up with. I think it was a 1 acre plot. Now, you know Dyer. The folks listening know Dyer. There are not a lot of places with a 1 acre lot in Dyer. So even if we mirrored the Cherville ordinance, already you're limiting, who can have these. And then furthermore, those lots that don't have that are in some of the new subdivisions to the south. They don't have fences, and it would have applied anyways. So the compromise was, hey, this is just a zoning issue. Come before the BZA. I'll be the first to admit that just because most of the homes in Dyer probably don't accommodate chickens well, that's not to say everyone doesn't. So come before the board. We had one resident come before the board and say, hey, I've got a double lot. I butt up against a park. I've a perfect scenario. They got chickens.
But without government, who will give us permission to own the chickens? Okay. I'm going to drop it. Okay. We can. Why don't we take some? Do you have a call? Let's take a call and then we'll take a break. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, for the audience out there, if you want to get more details about the incident involving Trucker Mike, the Times carried a piece on the full page piece on Saturday, page A3, and it's headline WJOB listeners rush to save caller. The WJOB host and 2 listeners rushed to save a regular caller who had suffered a medical incident while speaking live on the air Wednesday. Tom Dabberton, who hosts the morning call with Tom Dabberton on Wednesdays, who often gets calls from Michael Margus, who is also known as Trucker Mike. And but this time he got a text, and it says, Dabberton says, is quoted here as saying it was a little incoherent. It was a bunch of letters. It said, help. I took a quick break and called him to ask how he was doing. He said he was having problems, couldn't see, and wasn't feeling good. And then the call dropped. Another regular caller, David Gearman, who's known as Dave from Gary on the show, called and said he knew where Trucker Mike worked and was just 10 minutes away and would go to his place to check on him, which he did. And another listener by the name of Stabler, whose radio name is MX, he showed up and stayed with Trucker Mike and Gearman until the ambulance showed up. So there's more details on that.
Yeah, at least the newspaper is covering news, and it also made Fox Chicago, and I watched the video on that. So again, I'm glad that we can come together and help each other in times of need. So, Walt, I did want to move on to the big beautiful bill. I wanted to get your opinion on this as somebody who you and I have talked about my favorite topic, which is of course the U.S. debt. According to the CBO, the big beautiful bill can add up to $3.9 trillion to the debt. Now,
over 10 years.
Over 10 years. Now, I for one am disappointed. I'm disappointed. In some ways, I'm starting to feel like this administration is replaying last time when they said, we're here, we're going to cut the debt, we're going to cut government, and then they added $9 trillion again because of COVID. I mean, no fault, again, it's a unique scenario, but does this set up a scenario where, the average person just kind of looks at it and says, okay, well, I elected him to do these things. To me, the most important thing is the debt. We're adding to the debt. So, what does it look like to you? What are your thoughts on this? What is it going to take to finally elect somebody that's a fiscal conservative past the election season?
Well, before we get into something like that, okay. The theory is that these actions, particularly in the area of taxes and so forth, is going to get the economy rolling white hot.
Okay,
It's
right.
going to take off like a rocket.
I mean, what is it doing right now? We're doing very well. The markets made all-time highs last week. The tariffs are bringing in all sorts of money. I think we actually we theoretically had a surplus in June, although I consider that voodoo economics. So, I mean, again, this is white hot. This is as good as it gets. I mean, they
think they have it. What they have in mind is something much bigger than this, and particularly the tariff side of the house. That has not been. They're getting a lot of money up to a point, but I think they're looking for a lot more. And I think the big plan is that the economy will get to the point where, and the tariffs and so forth, and we'll be able to not only not have the accumulated debt to go up. It's going to be peeled back slowly but surely. They're going to be cutting it back. Now that's the theory, and my own attitude is one. I'm glad to see that I was saved from a big tax increase, because if something had not been done, there would have been a big jump in my taxes. But it's 1,000 pages, and there's a lot in there that nobody's talking about, and I'm looking forward to see what's in it from top to bottom.
Well, now that we've passed it, we can find out what's in it, right? But here's the thing, though, Walt.
That's the only way Washington works.
Even with this big, beautiful bill, it isn't let's cut spending. It's let's increase the GDP to cover the new spending. Like, why it is so difficult for Washington to cut spending. They just say, well, we're going to raise tariffs. We're going to increase the GDP. We're going to do all these things to cover the debt. And it's never let's cut $1 trillion in spending, and then let's add $1 trillion in revenue. Like, why is it so hard for Washington to cut? And I would say, looking at the people that came out to protest Elon, simply saying we need some accountability in Washington, the thousands of people that showed up for that, goes to show the problem. And I always say, one of the things I've realized these years and years on the air and talking to people like you is the problem isn't the politicians. The problem is inherently the people voting for them that just want more stuff. Yep. And I mean, and then there's that mantra of, I want more free stuff, tax Jeff Bezos. Why don't you just take the $1 trillion from Jeff Bezos, give it to me, give me free health care and college? I mean, that's the mantra is, I want free stuff, tax the rich. And I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, how do we fix the voters the problem, not the politician?
Well, it's the reason it's so difficult to cut back is because while the Democrats tell their people that it's military spending, no, it is government social welfare services. That's the biggie. And as soon as you cut you go back to Reagan. Reagan just wanted to eliminate the funeral benefit, which, I mean, you can't bury a dog on what was involved. Right. And so it was a token amount of, say, let's stop the red ink kind of thing. Democrats went nuts. They immediately said, he wants to attack and destroy the social security system, and you're not going to be getting your check and so forth. Over what? He just proposed eliminating the funeral benefit as a way to begin to think in terms of making it more viable financially. And the Democrats always demagogue on this. I mean, if you went around and looked at all their demonstrators and so forth, all the signs saying, no kings and,
Elon is the devil, Hitler, and all that stuff. Right?
Was there one sign that it said, we have to do something about the $36 trillion in debt?
37.
No.
That's right. Yeah, I'd be out there with that sign that says pass a balanced budget, and they'd beat me up. But I mean, that becomes the irony, Walt, is we spent all these decades arguing about spending, and in the meantime, the interest on the debt has now surpassed all of our other all of our other line items. That's the irony, right? I mean, while we were arguing about this, the debt is now the most expensive line item, over $1 trillion. It's more than military spending, more than socials. I mean, and that's the irony, right? While we were arguing about those things, now the interest is gobbling up the biggest portion of our revenue. So, well, we do have to take a break. Thank you so much for the call. I always appreciate it, as always. Keep up the good fight. We hope to hear from you again. Why don't we'll take our break. We'll be back with another short segment here on hit the other button for. Okay, there we go. Here on the Summer of Chuck 2, the Electric Boogaloo, Chuck Pullen, Bob Starkey. We'll be back with more after this. It's 6:53 here. So we do this thing over the break. Bob likes to keep my blood pressure high by talking about new taxes. He's like, here, just because you got to keep me going. Otherwise, I'll calm down. And then that doesn't make for good radio. So Bob's like, here's all the new taxes that we're gonna be pushing here.
No, not we.
Not we. Okay,
not we.
You.
Easy
Yes.
there, cowboy.
Okay, so it is 6:53 in the region. You're listening to Summer of Chuck 2, the Electric Boogaloo, with Chuck Pullen and Bob Starkey. We are both kind of elected officials. I'm an elected-ish official. You're an elected official. And
what a state of affairs that is.
What a state of – well, I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's like I was thinking about this the other day. It's like it's weird to me, and I don't want to digress too far. It's weird to me because like I don't know how well you know like Rick Rife. I always look at Rick Rife. I go, this is a guy. I wish this guy would run for I wish he'd run for president, Rick. Every time I see him, because here's a guy who just he's been, I don't know how he's doing it like 20 years now. I forget how long he's been in office, and all he does, he just like he cares about Griffith. He's like, I just want to. He doesn't ever. He's not one of these guys that's always like talking about himself. He just shows up, he gets it done, and he's always doing good things. And you're the same way in Dyer. Like you didn't. I don't think you sat in at the kitchen table one guy going, "Wah ha ha! I'm gonna slowly take over the world. I'm gonna start with town council, work my way up to Senate, just so I can get bankrolled by Lockheed Martin." Like you didn't do that because like someday I'm going to get a check from the Koch brothers and or Lockheed Martin. You did it because you wanted to help your community. So the weird thing is, it's like, how do people like you guys not end up? It's basically because you care so much about your job. You're not like thinking about the next job. Do you know what I mean?
Well, as soon as you find any morsel of success being elected at a when you talk all the way up to federal levels, a relatively low level, position, everybody says, well, what are you going to do next?
Right.
What are you going to do next? And I have always enjoyed watching the success that Rick Rife has had over in Griffith. Talk about turning a community around,
right,
pointing it in the right direction, and just maintaining that.
But also because he and the rest of that council were focused on the job at hand and not attaining higher office and doing this and that. They were focused on the job.
On what they were elected to
right.
do.
And they knew it was a long-term investment, and they've accomplished it. Good on them. Just like you and Dyer. I mean, I've said I grew up in Dyer, and you guys are doing good things. And it's not an overnight thing. It's a long-term investment, and you can't have, I mean, you frankly just can't have a new council every 4 years or whatever it is and go, okay, let's start over again. It takes you 4 years to figure out your job.
It really doesn't. That's a question that I've asked myself when a lot of these folks come out here and they scream term limits. Half of me says, well, term limits is every couple of years.
Yeah, you have a term. I agree with that.
There's terms for that. But there really is something to, if you're going to make a difference. I'm in my second year or my second term on the council, and I feel like we've got it took the first 4 years to point the ship in the right direction.
Right.
It's going to take the second 4 years to build up steam. You want to make sure it's heading that way. But then after that, then you can let that go to the next group of people that want to steer that. But you can't. It takes you 4 years just to figure out what the budget is.
Right. Or to understand. I mean, again, to understand the nuts and bolts of what you're even talking when you talk about the chickens earlier, like understanding the needs of the community, understanding what resources you have, understanding what people want, like you said, the direction of the community and things like that. It's a long-term plan. And I think far too often people get into office and it's like, okay, I'm going to do a term or two here and I'll start thinking about bigger things. And then they sort of forget about their job.
Or as they're running, they don't, Chuck and I waste so much good content during the break that it's really sad.
That could be we just do TikToks over the break. Matt can just come in here with a phone and we can post TikToks.
Do the Tiki-Toks over that. But so often, especially with these council or county levels, folks don't even know what they're running for.
Right.
They don't understand what the job is. You're not the council member. You're not the new mayor. You're not the anything other than you're just there to funnel. You can't fit in Dyer. You can't fit 16,000 people in a room and get any consensus. So we elect people to,
Okay, interesting question then. How do you decide as a councilman? How do you decide what the consensus is? Because like I said, far too often you have your average council meeting, you have 5 people there, 10 people there, and the running joke is, you messed up when you get there and the room is full. You're like, uh-oh. Okay, we messed up.
I have said that so often that if there were 15 or 20 people in the audience, again, 16,000 plus people in Dyer, if there were 15 people in the audience, we would almost stop the meeting and say, what's going on?
There's been a couple times at my time in St. John, I've walked in and there's been standing room. I'm like, don't start yet. Let me go get some popcorn. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I mean, standing room, and the meeting went till like midnight, 1 a.m. And I'm like, and it was about important issues. It was about, how new new neighborhoods, new subdivisions, things like that. But it was, you walk in and I see a standing room, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a party.
So I have an interesting take on how do I come up with, or how do I determine what the consensus is.
Mm-hmm.
I often say I don't legislate by Facebook. Just because you post something on there and you get 10 likes.
You definitely should use the Ring app, though, and Nextdoor, because that's where the least hinged people are found.
The Ring app.
Oh, the Ring app.
That's a good one. But I figure I've been elected to execute my vision for Dyer. I go out there and I campaign for a whole year and I say, this is what I'd like to do in Dyer. I'd like to see this redeveloped. I'd like to see this developed over here. I'd like to add this. I'd like to subtract this. I'd like to do these things. And then people show up on a rainy Tuesday in November and they say, yeah, okay, Bob, do that. And so I figure I'm good to go with how I'd like to proceed. Of course, you listen to the calls, the texts, the emails, all of those. That's, kind of your mile markers of where you're going, your wayfinders. But other than that, in 4 years after you're elected, if it's not been good, they'll tell you they want a new direction.
With that, it
traffic
is
time.
7:00.
How will people know where they're going?
How will they know what time it is? How will they know what the weather is outside?
Do they know what they're listening to?
And okay, it is 7:00 in the region. You are listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond, Indiana. This is the Summer of Chuck 2, the Electric Boogaloo with Chuck Pullen and Bob Starkey. We are going to be back with more. We're going to be back. We're going to reset, top of the hour, traffic, weather, tell you where you are, where you're going, how the weather is, whether you should wear shorts, bring an umbrella, all that stuff. We'll be back with more after this. 7:04 in the region. You were back. Why, I don't know, but you were back listening to Summer of Chuck 2, the Electric Boogaloo here on WJOB. Let's take a quick look at traffic and weather before we get back to the smooth jazz here on WJOB. Things looking well here in the region. No truck fires on 65.
But the day is young.
But the day is young. It's like when they opened that new interchange, and every single day there was a flipped-over semi. The first one was like a beer truck. I'm like, this is setting the tone. There's the interchange is open. There is a beer truck on its side. We're setting the tone for the future here on I-65. But everything looking good here in the region. You got the usual slowdowns if you're heading into the city on the Dan Ryan Bishop Ford, although it's not bad, just a little slowdown. Trip out to the airport's looking good. So not a lot to report traffic-wise, but if you see anything, you know the number, 219-845-1100. We're going to send it to Joe for weather.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So today we're going to have a high of 88 with hazy sunshine. It says something about wildfire smoke causing the sky to be hazy.
Canadians are up
The
to it
Canadians. Again. I blame the geese.
All right. Then for Tuesday, it'll get a little bit hotter with a high of 92, and it'll be hot with the sun all day long. With make sure you're staying hydrated. Wednesday, it'll drop a little bit, right back down to 88. It'll be humid but still warm. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will all drop to low 80s, high 70s, and there will be spots of rain and thunderstorm throughout the afternoon in all of those days. And that's your weather for the week.
Thank you so much. I do have an update from our man on the street, Paul Goddard. Says that there is a brief slowdown between Calumet and Indy. There is a crash eastbound, a car versus semi on the shoulder. So if you are heading eastbound on 80, there will be a little slowdown before you hit the state line. Thank you for that, Paul. Of course, like we got all. It's you can't get. I call it you can't get there from here season. There's all kinds of rolling closures on different places. So plan accordingly. I was telling the story last week. My wife wanted to go up to the beach. I took her up to Whiting. And then, of course, as soon as I drop her off and I get on the other side of the train tracks, there's a stopped train blocking both ways in and out of the beach. And we spent about 2 hours.
Oh, you got trapped at the beach.
Right. It was like, why don't you just go back?
Guy.
Yeah. Well, no, I was on the other side waiting for the train. And then, of course, my wife goes, can I just call the number on the I'm like, that's so cute. Like, how cute. You think you can call them and they're going to move the train for you. But, of course, it's that frustrating thing where you can see the end. It's like, 5 cars down. Like, can you guys just pull up like 10 feet?
Scoot up a little?
Scoot up, just a little. And they finally actually did that. They scooted up enough so that people can get in and out. But, again, at that point, you created this massive gridlock in and out of the beach, which is the worst. It's like you're trying to get to the beach and then there's a train sitting there. It's like, welcome to the region. But so Chuck Pullen, Bob Stark sitting here. Bob was on vacation for a couple weeks, and I do want to get into that because I think that's I came across an interesting story while you were gone about why the attendance is down at amusement parks and going to Disney and stuff like that. But why don't we'll take the call and then we'll get into that story. So good morning, caller. You're on the air.
What up, Chuck? What up, Mr. Starkey?
Hey, how doing?
Are you?
Good. How are you fellas doing?
We're fine. The barrel has been scraped. I mean, it hasn't necessarily been scraped to the bottom because you have not been on with me yet. So,
listen, and bring that show up like in the top 3 of. Oh wait, is there anything even good on the station anymore?
Yeah, you're listening to it.
I'm listening to it on Mondays.
Yeah, you guys might be the winners by default. No one else showed up.
Right. I'm good with that. I'm winning. I'm fine with winning by default.
Hey, just so you know, regarding that accident you mentioned, breaking news, it turns out MX Perry Stabler, according to Walt.
Close enough. Close enough for the name.
Stabler and Dave from what is it called? Lily White Miller Beach are racing to the scene right now to assist the guy. So they're looking to get on another news channel.
It's like Fox News, where are you?
Is that
breaking news?
Paul Goddard's new tactical unit.
Yeah, they're both headed there at record speed. So heads up,
you
folks.
should, Paul. You should give those boys some Region News Source placards for their cars, like run official. We're both going to respond to the scene and we're going to report on our own, activities. We're going to make break news on that. So, how are you, sir? What's going on?
2 things.
Go ahead.
Hey, well, 3 things for you,
He's got
Chuck.
3. No, 4 things for me.
Or for both of you, actually. The issue regarding chicken coops. What you ought to do is when someone comes to that council and says, "Yeah, I'd like to do a chicken coop," you say, Have you ever been inside a chicken coop with like 30 chickens for over an hour? When you do that, come back, and if you have changed your mind about having a chicken coop at your house, and make sure your neighbors, I'd have every neighbor sign off too, because a chicken coop is one of the most disgusting things you can ever be in. It stinks. It's full of germs. It's disgusting. You can take those free eggs and toss them right out the window. I'll go to Jewel and pay $12 a dozen. No chicken coops, man. They're the worst.
Cheers.
Now, regarding Chuck saying, Rick Reifel from Griffith, good guy, dedicated, Chuck Starkey, good guy, dedicated. There's another guy who's just like that. He's not looking for the next office. And you know what his name is, right, Chuck?
Yeah, because he can't run for any office. He's attained the highest office.
His name is Donald Trump. You guys all cry about, we need a third party. Yeah, listen, nobody's voting for a guy.
Here's the question, though. Here's the question. And again, I'm not faulting the man. I think he's doing a good job and all that kind of stuff. But why did he not rise from the ranks? Why did he not run for Senate in New York or something like that? I mean, that's sort of the idea is, I think that's one of the things that maybe he missed out on was having that position.
And thank God he did.
Well, but I'm saying is like having that position where you have to deal with people. Because one of the things I think that happens goes to Washington is you get insulated from the average person. You get insulated from reality in Washington. It's no fault of his. I think it's just part of the mechanism is you isolate the president. Congress gets isolated. And then when they come home and people are like, they have these town halls and, they are met with reality. I think that there's this insulation that happens in Washington. Even right now, we were talking over the break about what's happening with Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi and the Epstein. Like, what is it that all of these people talked all this big game, and then as soon as they went to Washington, everything, all these plans about the Epstein list and the binders and all this, like, what's going on? Like, why are we not just releasing those lists and go, here's what we got? Why is there all this double talk of we're going to release the list? We're going to release part of the list. We have stuff. We don't have anything. There's a list. Biden wrote the list. Like, this back and forth is what frustrates me. Because it's like, just release what you got. Like, why edited footage, all that stuff?
Regarding the issue of this of the Epstein stuff, one of my favorite people to listen to, and I rarely listen to podcasts because the majority of them are just stupid and people bloviating about zero. Like, no,
that's what I love most about it. But that's
you either got to have information or you got to entertain people.
Some of Chuck too now available in podcast form on iTunes and your favorite in Spotify. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, listen to Jed from like 6 to 6:45.
No, you know what's funny? I woke up this morning on the way here and I was listening to Ryan Walsh call a basketball game. I'm like, how many decades old is this? Ryan Walsh and Dan Repe doing a basketball game.
And at WJOB, that's a podcast. Oh, look, we got another podcast. Dude, no one's going to listen to that. I don't understand why they can't figure that out, but either way. But Ben Shapiro put a podcast, and he does one every day. And this day was about an hour and 20 minutes, and it was about the Epstein files. And it turns out everything that everybody's been talking about is basically rumor and innuendo. So when this list came up, he goes back through the archives, and there's only one person who said there was a list. And it was some female reporter from New York who then later, when grilled about it, hey, where's the list? Well, I don't really know if there's a list. Well, you said there was a list.
But did the White House not invite a whole bunch of people there and give them binders? Did they not talk about all of this stuff they have? I mean, that's the whole thing. You don't talk about it if there's nothing there.
They didn't tell you there was anything good in the binder, Chuck.
Well, that's
what
I'm asking.
Said that at all.
Where's my invite? Like, give me the binder. But again, we know that
you would do the same thing with it. Well, there wasn't anything really that hadn't been revealed already. So the point is, though, is that everybody's been talking about the Epstein stuff, and the fiction and the rumor and innuendo became truth in the minds of the public because we heard it so much.
Don't you think? Again, the what I'm hearing from a lot of people now is they're saying the concealing of the list or the concealing of
There's
who was
no list.
Okay, not list then. Okay,
That's the point.
We
Chuck.
know
you
we
keep talking,
we know
but you're not listening.
We know that there's a flight log. I have it on my phone. We know that there's a contact list. I have it on my phone. We talked about I was going to put it up on the screen today. We know that there are flight logs. We know that there are a lot of high profile people were on those flight logs. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe it wasn't.
Okay, so if you got it, why don't you publish it, Chuck?
I wanted to. I wanted to literally put it on the screen today. Maybe we'll do it next week. But so my point is,
Chuck, why are you going to wait? If you got the flight log, publish it. Put it out.
Because I don't want to hang myself. But so
okay,
the point
give it to
being,
me. We got enough fake names on Facebook.
No, you were welcome.
Put it out that way.
You were welcome to put it out. But here's the thing. The point being,
you don't have it. That's the point. Chuck.
I do have it. I literally have the flight logs on my phone. I'm telling you. My point being that now the conspiracy among of the concealment of whatever information there is now bigger than the event itself. And that's the problem. Is like, why?
That's never happened before.
That happens every time. That happens every time. And that's what's frustrating is you have all these people that we relied on, people like Dan Bongino, all these guys that talked a big game, and then as soon as they got there, they go, "Oh no, there's nothing." The guy spends years saying.
Bongino was a radio host, Chuck. And what is the number one goal of a radio host? It's not to tell facts. It's not to tell the truth. It's to make sure you got people listening so you get advertisers so you make money.
Oh,
if you ever listen to Bongino's show was more hot air. I couldn't stand listening to the guy. He sounded like Kuziak, though, but maybe a tad bit brighter. And that was it. But I'm not kidding.
But I'm saying, so as a guy then, let's say we knew Dan Bongino, we were friends with his. Like, I would go to him and say, look, I'm disappointed because I know you as a man. You are a good guy that wants to do good things, and then something has happened now that you've gone to Washington. And maybe it's the
nothing. Chuck, what? He never said he had the list. He never said he saw the list. All he ever said on his show was, I've got inside sources that tell me there's a list. That's all he said.
But I'm saying everybody always says, I'm going to go to Washington and I'm going to fix the problems. I'm going to be transparent. And then as soon as they get there, something changes. And I don't care whether you're Democrat, Republican, otherwise.
Chuck, what changed about his transparency? He never said he had the list.
I'm saying yes. No, even the boss is telling me move on. Yes. Okay. Anything else before we move on? You had like 8 other points.
No, just one other one.
Okay.
Over the weekend, I happened to be listening to a lot of NPR, National Public Radio.
On purpose?
Loved the insane,
his radio
crazy...
stuck. He didn't know how to change the channel. He had a rental car.
No. Loved the insane, crazy liberals out there with their pencils in the thing, begging for money over the weekend while they're being funded to $8 billion a year.
Give him an umbrella. Come on, buy an umbrella.
Yeah. And then
we should have a WJOB umbrella. I think we'd make some good money. I know the boss is listening. We should have like
I'm spending a lot of time. My turn yet or no?
No. Go ahead. Fine. Go ahead.
So I'm reading a lot of these articles in the New York Times over the past couple of weeks. I got to tell you, Chuck, the Democratic Liberal Party, they're literally on the edge of falling off the cliff. They think the world is coming to an end. Heaven forbid one of the 2 good-looking women out of the 3 liberals, Kanjanji, whatever her name is, and then the other 2 barren women who are on there who don't have an idea what a woman is. They don't know what children are. They can't decide between sex. They have no idea what they're doing. One of those 3 ends up getting off the court, and I think the Democratic Party might literally fold. They just might go, we can't take it anymore.
I know their funding has dried up, so they have problems.
Not only their funding, but their intellectual ability to even cope with reality that, my God, they might have a guy in the White House doing a good job. Now, do I think he's doing a perfect job? No, and I don't agree with everything he does.
Okay, I agree with you that I do want to definitely hit what's going on with these attacks on ICE agents because I think you.
That's all just Republicans. Oh wait, it's probably liberals, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, we got to move on, take a break, and all that stuff. But I appreciate the call. But I mean, there is Bill.
Hey, just make sure, Chuck. Make sure you mention that. Remember that little bombing run Trump did? The Middle East is kind of calm and cool, isn't it? Yeah, that war you said was going to start. Yeah, I don't think so, Chuck.
Don't
Apologize,
I mean,
apologize to my president right
Look,
now.
maybe this is the first time in history that bombing for peace actually worked. And if that's
I want you
the
to
case,
apologize to Donald Trump right now. He's listening because I told him put us on for my call, and then he's going back to doing what he's doing.
Tell him to apologize for not passing a balanced budget. Like you had one job.
New Jersey, so that's the end of that.
You had
All
one.
right, have a good show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Stay out of chicken coops. Ban them everywhere.
See, that's the thing, is that I had one chicken. He was smaller than the little yappy dog. So again, it's this weird irony that you're telling me I can't have this little tiny chicken that's the size of a little poodle, yet some guy can have a Great Dane the size of a horse. Like, that's fine. I know guys like a Christmas Story, the Bumpuses. You have all these hound dogs roaming. Like, that's fine, but how dare you have one tiny little chicken? But then people like Matt go, well, then you're going to go from 1 to 30 chickens. Like, nobody said 30 chickens. I said 1 or 2.
I will say
we agree. Just like if somebody has 50 dogs, that's a problem. You guys, everybody go in and go, hey, this is a problem. You can't have 50 dogs or 50 cats in your house. Nobody's saying 50 chickens, right? I mean, that's the thing. It's like we go to the extremes.
I would say no to that. Originally, back in Dyer, maybe everybody's tired to listen to the Dyer stories, but the ordinance that we looked at that failed called for 5 hens, no roosters.
Well, that's
just 5, because I mean you don't want roosters. Talk about a nuisance.
But now
there's 5 hens.
How do I keep the generations going? Like, what do I have to say? Now you've created a situation. Tractor supply.
Go buy some new ones.
Right, you
stimulate the economy.
Again, that's.
But then it turned into, I think the last one that was passed at the BZA was for 15 chickens. And I had said over and over again, I said, look, you put a number on it, and it's a slippery slope to more numbers. And everybody laughed at me and said, oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. That'll never happen. The first one out the gate, it tripled.
Okay, like parking spots. You have a tried and true X number of parking spaces per whatever. The same thing with chickens. Like I said, you have a little backyard, you have 1 or 2 chickens. You have an acre, you're going to have 10 chickens. Whatever. Okay, I'm done rallying for the chickens.
I'm kind of confused on just like what the issue is with having 1 or 2
Thank you. Thank you.
Me personally,
because government likes to be the creator of, and going back to Reagan, government likes to create problems and then solve them and say, look what I did. So that's what this guy's doing right here. He's like, look, nobody cared about the chicken. He's like, look, I'm going to solve the chicken problem. I'm going to single-handedly show up and solve the chicken problem. And that's what government does. They avoid issues like the debt. And then they talk about chickens. They talk about chickens and like, can you grow flowers in your front yard? This is what government does. This is where he and I diverge, because he's sitting here going, oh, we got a chicken problem in Dyer. We got to go get on top of this. We have 5 chickens, 15 chickens. We got to have a committee about it. We got to have a study.
Nobody said we had a problem with chickens.
So why are you looking for a problem?
What is the problem with chickens?
Right. What is the problem with chickens? They eat bugs.
I mean, I feel like if a kid has a chicken as a pet, then
because just like the dogs, like most people have 1 or 2 dogs. Every once in a while, somebody has 20. Every once in a while, somebody has 20 cats. It's a problem. That's the whole point. It's like government's like, oh, well, what if you let somebody have 2 chickens? Next thing you know, there's gonna be 50 chickens in a condo somewhere living in the bar. There'll be 20 chickens living in the Barbary apartments. Like, no, we agree that's a problem. Everybody agrees. Like, why do we have to have legislation? It's like. The average person,
prerequisites like a pool or something.
The average person goes fishing and catches a couple of fish. Every once in a while, some guy goes and catches like 20 or 30 fish. That's a problem. We agree. Like that's like, but why do you have to regulate things? Like it's just like the emissions. Most people have a car. It doesn't belch black smoke. Every once in a while, there's some guy with a 50-year-old pickup truck that's belching black smoke. That's a problem. Go deal with that guy. Like why bother me about it? But that's the inherent problem with government is we want to rule over everybody and not just deal with the problem. Like that's the just worry about it when it's a problem. Like we're going to bring you. There's a guy in town with 20 chickens. We got to deal with that. Like bring them, like you said, bring them in front of the BZA. Go, hey, you can't have 20 chickens. Okay.
Who knew chickens would bring forth so many underlying problems in government?
But I mean, it's like that's the undoing of all government.
In Dyer last year and in Schererville this year, it is. We will pass a a couple $1 million worth of bonds that folks are paying for.
$50 million. Nobody cares.
We did $7 million worth of infrastructure projects last year. Really massive, massive things. And chickens preoccupied about 6 months worth of the town council meetings. Same thing happened in Sheriffville. And more people turned out for that. We could say, and we're not doing this, but you have public hearings before you issue debt. Nobody comes to those things. Nobody shows up.
Everybody comes on the back end, goes, well, I know nobody told me about this wheel tax.
Told me this.
Like, there was meetings. You didn't show up. Like, this is why they passed it. Like, what can I do about it? You can go back in time, 2 years, when they had the meeting about the wheel tax, bring your friends. Like, that's on, as I said, that's on you as the voter. But we do have to take a break. We'll be back with more Summer of Chuck 2, the Electric Boogaloo, here on WJOB. .728 here in the region. You're listening to Smooth Jazz here on WJOB. Let's take a quick look at traffic and weather. So as far as traffic goes, Paul had mentioned that there was an earlier accident right around Indianapolis Boulevard eastbound. Had traffic backed up to Calumet. Not a big problem. The accident was on the shoulder. Everything's looking pretty good here on my traffic maps. You got the usual slowdowns heading into the city, Dan Ryan, Bishop Ford. But again, it's summertime. Things are moving along pretty well. Nothing really to report. 294. Anything else in Illinois? The weather, it's warm. It's warm. It's summertime. And that's it. You've got a possible rain in the forecast like Thursday. They're calling for like a rainy weekend. Other than that, it's going to be, basically 80s, 90s all week.
Did you just take their weather job?
Well, they were in transition. I didn't want to throw Matt under the bus. He's like, what weather? Like, I don't know. It's hot out. My lovely wife did send a message over the break. She did say, we are not getting chickens. So I don't know the St. John ordinance. We'll have to have that discussion, but.
Well, I can say that our long national nightmare is now over. She has decided.
So no chickens. Well, she's told me no to a lot of things, and there's a lot of stuff in my garage that she told me no to.
And you compromised, and the answer was still no.
Okay, so I wanted to get into this because you were on vacation. I think this is a really interesting, I'm going to say interesting story. It's not really interesting, but it's confusing. So you went to, where did you go? You went to Disney. What did you do?
We are Disney folks.
Mm-hmm.
Love Disney.
Mm-hmm.
A couple times a year we like to go. You're smiling because I know we've had this conversation. You said you would never spend that money to go down to Disney when you could go to the wonderful and magnificent Indiana Beach.
It's literally the same thing. It is literally the same thing.
It is not
Instead
the same
of a mouse,
thing.
there's a crow. I mean, it's literally the same thing.
It's not the same thing. Disney is wonderful. I will throw hands on that one. But we did. We went to Disney, went to Epcot for a couple days. They got a new park. And then we went on our very first Disney cruise. And that was a lot of fun.
I had posted about, we did, if you haven't seen it, I watched. My wife asked me the other day, she's like, we should think about going on a cruise. I immediately went to Netflix. I turned on the Poop Cruise documentary on Netflix. I said, here, watch this and get back to me. And you can find that on Netflix. If you ever think about going on a cruise, watch that documentary.
I went on a cruise last summer, and I had so much fun.
Well,
it was a blast. We had a good time.
It's like going to Walmart with slot machines. I mean,
well, it depends on what type of cruise you're going on. You go on a Carnival cruise.
Don't get a suit. Don't.
They've changed their.
They've changed their policies. No personal stereos.
Yep.
So, an interesting story.
Come on.
So we've had these I'm not. We've had WJOB's been in the news enough this week. Let me stop and stop and take a breath here. Get some fresh oxygen in me before I go there. Okay, so we've talked about this at length for years and years here on WJOB. I've never been on a Disney property. My goal in life. I have several goals in life. People have bucket lists of things to accomplish. I have a list of things I don't want to accomplish. Going to Disney is one of them. Going to California is one of them. Ever setting foot into a Walmart again is one of them. Not going into Starbucks is one of them. So I have a whole list of things I don't want to accomplish, and going to Disney is one of them.
I can't say anything about Carnival, but you could just dump on Walmart and Starbucks.
Right. It's my show.
Okay.
It's not Summer of Bob. It's Summer of Chuck.
Tune in next week to Summer of Bob 1.
When I get kicked off for getting sued on WJOB, then you can take over. It can be Summer of Bob. But no, I'm saying it's not an attack on anybody's. I'm just saying I will not go there. I'm not saying for any reason in particular because I don't want us to get sued. But I'll say I've never set foot in a Disney property. I don't want to set foot in California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, places like that's my personal my goal in life. Like the other day, I was driving home on the Dan Ryan, and northbound Dan Ryan was shut down because two people were shot. And at that moment, when you see the state troopers looking for shell casings on the Dan Ryan on a road I take every day, and I'll be taking here shortly, you go, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be somewhere where people get shot regularly.
But nobody's getting shot at Disney. So let's talk about why people aren't going to Disney.
You think that's the case? I think they cover them up. I think people disappear. I think all kinds of stuff's happening at Disney, but I don't want to talk about it because I don't want us to get sued. I think there's
not Willy Wonka the Chocolate
I've seen some documentaries about some.
I just seem like a hater, to be honest.
No, absolutely. I no doubt. Yes.
You know why? Because he's never been to Disney.
And I've never
magical.
Been. And one of
the happiest place on earth.
If I can go a year without setting foot in a theater, I'm happy. Like I don't know when the last time people were talking to me about Superman or Spider-Man Man or whoever. I don't know. I'm not.
See, I don't agree with that. I
No.
think you were literally just the movie theaters are a good time.
No, they're not. I go in there and you guys are on your phone the whole time. You guys are eating all kinds of loud food. You're in there like having the whole meal.
Who is you?
You guys, you kids.
Who is
you kids go in there and you're TikToking the whole time. You're over like taking selfies. Like, hey, look at me,
with
Spider-Man.
your heavy metal music
You
and
and
crack
your kids
cocaine.
and your
I
couch.
also show up with the stereo. Like
You show up with a stereo and you're taking selfies and you're eating dinner and like I don't know. You guys are like it's like breakdancing and like making all kinds of noise.
I want to know what theater Chuck is going
Chuck,
to.
The first time I see anybody, any age, breakdance in the movie theater, I will never.
No,
step
they were
foot again.
dancing. What movie? I don't know what
The
years
Taylor
ago.
Swift thing, the
Maybe.
era.
Yeah, no, they were dancing
But
in the
that-
streets. I mean, that was
that was
unbelievable.
grown
The Greatest
women.
Showman. You can't tell me you don't get a little.
No, not at all. No, I'm. Well, this is what you have to understand.
I'm not fun.
I am done with modern society. If I could go buy a typewriter and move to a cabin in the mountains right now, I would. My wife needs to be close to Target, and she likes going and buying stuff. I'm done with you're right. If I had a chicken, I'd have I got a chicken and a cow and a typewriter. That's all I need. That's all. I don't need roundabouts. I don't need bike bridges. I don't need a train. I literally need a typewriter, some chickens, and a cow. And I'm good.
Starting next week, if you guys could just pull up the graphic of the old man yelling at the sky, and whenever Chuck talks, just throw that up there. Let him do his thing. The oxygen will fade in the room. You'll see my eyes go cross.
Overlay instead of
So let's move on to this because Bloomberg puts out this article and says that a lot of like Six Flags, Disney, their numbers are down. So let me pull this up here real quick. So like Six Flags reporting a troubling 17% decrease, and United Parks facing a 9.6% decline. A lot of people are saying that Disney is no longer affordable. A picture went viral a couple weeks ago of a guy who took his daughter to the princess breakfast. It was $900 for a breakfast. And Bloomberg has the most obvious solution, the most obvious explanation for what's going on.
Only one
here.
reason.
There's only one reason that you are not spending $900 at a princess breakfast at Disney. Climate change.
Climate change. The weathers.
Bloomberg says that one of the most notable factors contributing to the attendance decline is erratic weather patterns observed through the summer. Extreme heat wave followed by heavy rainstorms have made outdoor activities less appealing. So Bloomberg is saying that you are not going to Disney or not going to Six Flags because of climate change. It's not because of the fact that we're all broke. It's not the fact that inflation has been rampant for the last few years. It is specifically because of climate change. What are your thoughts?
Well, for those of you watching, you'll know that I am not a slender man. And so really anything above 70 degrees with 80% humidity or more is unbearable to me. And yet, I still went to Disney the first week of July.
Did you look at the weather at all? Did you land and go look at the weather?
No. Now, I will say we went in January this year because we're obnoxious like that. And jeans and a hoodie, that was the best time for me. I don't need the water rides. I don't need any of that. Had the absolute best time when it was cooler. Now, I'm on ThrilledData.com. As soon as you sent me the Bloomberg article, there was a handful of reels that magically popped up on my phone because that's just how the interwebs works. And they were talking about the decline in the summer.
Okay.
Well, there may be a decline in the summer where they're getting average. Everything's still been down since COVID because except for ridership on the South Shore. But aside from that, the folks seem to be going now in the cooler months. Now, is that just because they want? It's the same people are going. It's just they're going at a different time now. And ThrilledData.com lists all of this out, where they have predictors based on ticket sales, and it looks like August ticket sales are down, but February ticket sales were up.
So that was always my, people that I talked to. Yeah, they went on a Christmas break or something like that. They seem to go, especially northern people that aren't used to that weather. Yeah. It's like we're going in the wintertime. We're going to go. It'll be 70 or 80 degrees at the most.
We typically go between November. We started January this year to try it out, and that's a solid yes from now on. But we like going over the holidays. We have, built-in breaks with school and.
So this article goes on to say that looking to the future, theme parks face the pressing need to adapt their operational strategy. This adaptation could include heightened safety measures in response to unpredictable weather. Moreover, a significant emphasis may shift towards creating more indoor experiences. So they're going to move the Magic Kingdom indoors, put a giant dome on it, so that people can enjoy the parks regardless of fluctuating weather conditions.
Now, I'm all for more indoor amenities. I'm all for more shade, but that has nothing to do with climate. That's just because I'm a fat guy.
So if it's such a weird thing, because I'm so far removed from this article to even have a discussion about this idea that it's hot in Florida in August is
mind-blowing.
Right. It's
mind-blowing.
Thank you, Bloomberg, for writing this article. But they're claiming that it is hot. I mean, these are the same people that claim it's hotter than ever, and every article is the lake is hotter than ever, and the summer's hotter than. I mean, everything's hotter than ever until you actually pull up the data and go, oh wait, never mind. 1927 was the hottest on record. So I'm wondering, this becomes sort of like to Mad Mac's point earlier, this idea that if the media is telling you things, does it become sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy? Do you know what I mean? Is the reason that everybody's going now in December and February because they believe that they're like, oh, well, Bloomberg said it's going to be hot in August because of climate change, so we'll go in February.
As I'm... My wife here, not unlike yours, who's telling you when you can and can't buy chickens. I'm getting
no chickens for you.
No, there was never chickens for me. She was talking about the $900 breakfast.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if I got that right, but I mean,
I saw that before, and I was confused by that because I will say that we had a pricey breakfast.
Okay.
It was north of that number, but we had 10 people.
It might have been the mimosas. I don't know. Do you have $20 mimosas?
That was the point is, what did they add on to
right.
it? Right.
No, but I mean, again, I assume that when you go to the Princess Breakfast, you're not ordering like bottle service, right? I don't know. Maybe you do. I don't know how these things work.
I think they must have.
Bring me a bottle of something and share it with the princesses. But so, I mean, that's what I'm saying is that, we know that there's all these articles that are saying that Disney has become unaffordable. There are people that this is our, we go to Disney every year and that's our thing. And there are people that are saying it has become unaffordable for the average family. And so it's sort of like when I see these people complaining about the ticket prices for concerts. We were talking about Indiana Beach where you used to go, you go see the Yardbirds for $3 in the 1960s. Yeah. But now the difference is the Yardbirds didn't have 100 trucks of stuff at their concert like Taylor Swift does. So you have to pay for that. So that becomes the question is, if, ticket prices for concerts become unaffordable, you all just take a summer off. It'll work itself out. You could just say, look, we can't afford your, 10% surcharges, $1,000 tickets. We're just not, if everybody would just take a summer off from going to concerts, this would work itself out real quick.
And you certainly shouldn't go into debt to go on these family vacations. But, at the end of the day, it's probably choice. That's something we choose to do. But there are other things that, you might say, well, why in the world would you go to Disney once a year? Why in the world would you do that? You could use that money for other things. Well, I'm sure we could. That's what we choose to do.
Can I ask?
I've got a bathroom from 1999 that needs updating, but we like to go to Disney instead.
Okay, so can I ask ballpark? Do you kind of know, like, if you were to say, what does it cost per person for a week at Disney? Like, again, I'm not getting into your personal finances or whatever, but I'm saying, like, ballpark. What do you think it costs, like, family of 4 or something like that, to go for a week?
I'm honestly,
ask the wife.
Well,
here's what I'm getting.
Beck, I know you're watching here.
So let's say,
you'll pop it through and say,
would you say like $1,000 a person?
I don't know the per person cost. I'd probably say, depending on how you want to get there, I don't know, $2,500.
$2,500 a person. So
no, not a person, for the family.
For the family, a family of 4. Okay. Let me do this. Hey Google, how much does it cost to raise a chicken every year? Let's find out. Let's just Google this real quick. So let's see. So
in things that don't matter on the Summer of Chuck 2, let you Boogaloo.
So let's say $400. So then I can do. Let me do the quick math.
Would it
math
keep
here.
the
So I do
subject relevant while he's doing
25.
this?
I know.
I really enjoyed
100
Dollywood. I don't know if
divided
you've
by
ever been there in
400.
Tennessee.
So
Dollywood. I have not been to Dollywood.
I can raise 6.25 chickens a year for what it costs you to go to Disney, just so you know. But yes, Dollywood is now ranked, I think in many cases it's ranked like one of the number one destinations. Maybe it's because of the weather. Maybe the weather is more, there's less climate change at Dollywood. I don't know.
I don't understand the weather thing. I understand why maybe like ticket sales for Disney would be down in the summer, especially because like I've always had the thought process of like, especially living up north, like why would I leave when it's nice out? Like if I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to wait till I'm freezing my butt off, and then I'm going to go somewhere nice. So that's kind of the way I've always seen it.
But they're also saying like Six Flags is down quite a bit too. And
Six Flags is just boring.
Yeah.
Well,
no, we can't say that. Evidently, Chuck's the only one who can call out.
No, you can't. You can just say I'm not going there. I can't say why. I don't know. The boss can chime in. He's listening. But so the numbers are down at Six Flags. The numbers are down across the board, and everyone's trying to assign blame to this. And again, Bloomberg's blaming climate change. I'm saying it's because everybody's broke and can't afford that. But to your point, I mean, even like when I go to buy a plane ticket now, which if I never flew again, I'd be happy. Even if I just take my left shoe off or however that works, take your belt halfway off and give us your right shoe. If I never had to fly again, I'd be happy.
Shoes stay on now.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what you can.
That they just TSA just said that the day or two after we got back.
Of course.
They rolled out a new plan that says you can keep your shoes on.
So, but same idea though. You go to buy book a plane ticket, and they're like, "Hey, you can finance this for the next 5 years if you'd like. Like, you could either pay cash for it now, or you can finance this for 5 years, and you'll still. I mean, that's. But most Americans all paying for installments. Why save money to go to Disney? I could just pay for it over the next year. So let's take a break. I know we got callers. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. We'll take your calls, I promise, after this. More Summer of Chuck 2, the Electric Boogaloo. Okay, it is 7:48 in the region. Chuck Pullen, Bob Starkey. We're taking your phone calls. We're going to go till we'll go for roughly another hour. This is all relevant. I wanted, because this is our strange story of the day, that I need to mention this before I forget. Apparently, Elmo, our little red buddy, put out a tweet that says, "Release the files at real Donald Trump." So Elmo
has weighed in,
now calling for Donald,
which
President
is
Trump.
the real. We broke it here. Breaking news on WJOB. That is why the Republicans are attempting to defund PBS.
He's on HBO now. He's literally. So again, missed opportunity. They should rebrand Sesame Street like as a Sopranos show. Like, think about that. I mean, again, like, people, I would watch the hell out of, I would have viewing parties at my house if we had like a Muppets Sopranos crossover. Like, I'm just telling you, HBO, this is why you're failing. Like, you own the IP to this. Like, there's like, even like the Disney owning Star Wars, like, there's so much you can do with like like Mickey Mouse, and like there's so much you could do with that IP. But yes, Elmo has published and deleted a post on X challenging President Trump to release the Epstein files. That's your strange story of the day.
I don't know what else we could add to the day.
Yeah,
Elmo.
We can take some calls. We can add you, the caller. So good morning, caller, on the air. Good morning, caller. Hello.
This is an old friend of Jimmy Deedlow, Lunch Menu Dave, checking in from Evanston, Illinois this morning.
From Evanston. How are things in Evanston?
Indiana, by the way.
Yeah, how are things in Evanston?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good.
I think he's listening because he's been sending me messages, telling me what to talk about, telling me to move on and things like that. So I'm sure he's listening. So feel free to say hello to Jimmy. I'm sure he'll...
So yes, I'm actually planning on making my way back down to my old stomping grounds this weekend over in Griffith, Indiana.
Fantastic.
Where I grew up.
What do you do when you come home?
Planning to, amongst other things, visit the Park Full of Art. Hopefully catch that one day this weekend over in Central Park.
We were just talking about Griffith earlier. We're talking about I really enjoy the things they're doing there because I think that they're...
Yeah, I heard you commenting about Councilman Ripa.
Yeah.
He's definitely a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Even though we don't always agree on
Well,
stuff.
and that's the thing. It's like, even if I don't agree with you politically, at least you could say, even if you don't agree with him, he's doing the right thing. And Bob's the same way. Like, hey, I don't agree with Bob on anything, but at least I could say he's doing good things for the town of Dyer.
Yeah, I will give Rifa his props on making Griffith a bit of a tourist hub, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially during the summer season.
Right, and that's the thing.
I'm kind of doing the summer swans of Capistrano pit.
Fantastic.
So planning on coming home, kind of visiting Park Full of Art, hoping to catch up with some assorted old friends that are down that way that I still have.
And think about that. You're going to come down to Griffith. You're not going to pay $200 to park. You're not going to pay $900 for breakfast. I mean, and you get to go have a nice weekend in Griffith. Like, who can beat that? What else is on your mind?
But yeah. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, what can you say? You're here. You're calling. What's going on?
Life's good for this, at one point, aspiring radio personality who kind of turned into working at Marshall's while living up here, and also working in the visual arts and working in music. So it's like, yeah, what can I say? My life's nuts up here sometimes.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, life is a funny thing.
Yeah.
Right? You can't always plan it, right? So, anything else on your mind?
Yeah. Trying to make some money and I'm hoping I get the chance to catch up with Jimmy Deedlow while I'm in town this upcoming weekend.
Well, yeah. I mean,
where is he these days anyway?
I don't know. He takes Mondays off. I mean, I think he works. What does he work? Tuesdays and Thursdays, something like that. He's got a nice flexible schedule. He's got a perfect schedule. So he's a guy who's got it figured out. So, but hey, I got a whole bunch of callers, and we got to go ahead.
The benefit of kind of benefit of being able to get enough money to kind of buy a radio station, I guess.
Right.
And then have a bunch of jamokes money to kind of speak their piece on the air, I guess.
Right.
Huh?
Well, that's the whole thing. Is he bought the radio station, keeps it free and open, so people like me can come on. He decided he could have gone to Disney or he could have bought a radio station. He decided to buy a radio station.
I went to Disney.
And you went to Disney. You could have bought a radio station. So, hey, but thank you so much for the call. We gotta move on, get a few more people in before we take our break. I appreciate the call. Hopefully you have fun in Griffith. Be a fantastic time. Maybe I'll go out there and join you at some point.
Could you imagine how many chickens Jim could have bought instead of the radio station?
How many? I mean, let's Google how much.
No, all right, we gotta keep going.
No, you here. You work on. Good morning, caller on the air.
You should ask that guy from Evanston how he feels about paying reparation payments to blacks living in Evanston. That should have been made for an interesting conversation. As to
yeah, that's such a complicated issue. And let me take a breath.
No, it's not.
Well,
what's complicated about
it?
Well,
okay.
No,
here's the
that's not
question. Here's the
complicated.
question, though. It's so. I was watching a video the other day, Walt, and a guy was asking liberal people about voter ID laws. And of course, what did they all say? Every single one of them said they're racist. Certain people don't have the internet. Certain people don't know how to go to the DMV. And then he went to, I think it was like Queens, New York, and he asked a whole bunch of minority people. He said, hey, do you know where the DMV is? Like, yeah, it's like 4 blocks over. He's like, hey, do you have the internet? Like, yeah, of course I have the internet. Do you have a driver's license? Like, yeah, of course I do. It's like there are liberals that think that you aren't smart enough to get a driver's license and you don't have the internet. And they're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So, I mean, again, it's sort of this idea that your philosophy is so inherently demeaning. So even the idea of if you live in Evanston, you are probably a professional. You probably do well for yourself. It's like, hey, doctor, hey, lawyer, we're going to give you a reparation payment. It's like, oh, well, thanks, but I do quite well for myself. Why don't you use that money to help people that are, could use it? I don't need the money. I don't need your $200. I do quite well for myself, right? I mean, there's sort of this inherent just demeaning aspect to some of these philosophies, and it becomes this kind of issue of, being self-aware. It's like your philosophies are in themselves like inherently racist to just assume people aren't smart enough to get a license or go to the DMV, and that's what's weird about it.
Oh, by the way, the majority, based on polls, the majority of black people support voter ID.
I think, well, it was interesting, Walt. I remember pointing this out during COVID. There was a point that in New York, you had to show your ID to like go to the gym or basically do anything. It's like so you don't need an ID to vote, but you need an ID to go into a restaurant or go into, the gym. And suddenly, because we're in a state of emergency, what once was racist is now just commonplace, right? I mean, or even now there's people that are saying, because of the ICE raids, you should always carry your ID. It's like, well, that was always, I'm pretty sure that's almost like a law, right? Like this idea that like, oh, you don't want to get picked up by ICE, you better carry your ID. It's like, well, it's a good idea for everyone, regardless of if you're worried about the ICE agents or not.
Let's talk about something a little happier.
Oh, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
When I had kids in the house, and they're both now grown up and professionals on their own, but when they were kids, they liked going to Indiana Beach, and they more than once. They liked the beach, the carnivals. They liked when I'd rent a cabin in the area, and then finally they approached me. My daughter was 11 at the time, and my son was 7. And they said, "We would like to go to see Disney World while we're still kids." Okay. As it happened, I was a member of American Motor Club, and I got their monthly magazine. And it just so happened that they had a special deal, a package deal of a flight, a hotel, and a car rental. And I said, "You asked at the right time because I think we'll take advantage of that."
Okay.
They enjoyed Disney World, but they also like Wiki Wachi, the thing where the mermaids swimming in in a natural spring. They like going to see Cypress Gardens. And my son loved going to see the NASA museum over on the East Coast. And to top it all off, when we left Orlando, the pilot said they're about ready to launch a shuttle. So I'm going to turn the airplane on its side so that you can look out the right side of the. And sure enough, here comes the shuttle, and it was amazing to watch. And my son was really big into that. In fact, in his room, he had we got him wallpaper with the shuttle on it and an astronaut and so forth.
Well, based on you mentioning the shuttle, this had to have been at least 20 years ago, if not more, at this point. Right?
Oh, we have more. It's more like 35, 40 years ago.
So that was before climate change, though, Walt. So, and again, as the fact that you can go to the motor club and afford. So this is the inherent question, and I wanted to point this out. So Bob and I were talking about the price. So I had estimated $1,000 a person. According to this article, a Disney World vacation in 2025 for a family of four can range anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000. So over $1,000 a person to go on a Disney trip at this point. A baseline estimate of $7,000 for a family of four. So you're over $1,000. I assume that includes everything: flights, how long you stay, tickets, all that stuff. So Walt, Bloomberg is saying we're not going to Disney because of climate change. I'm saying it's because the average person can't afford to spend thousands of dollars a person to go on a regular trip to Disney World. What say you?
Well, for one thing, 60% of the American households are living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Just barely keeping their nose above water.
So the idea of budgeting an extra several $1,000s to go to Disney is probably becoming it's becoming unattainable for the average family. Well,
probably more financially better off going to Indiana Beach. And
ding, ding, ding. Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, fantastic. I couldn't even imagine for the cost of less than the cost of a princess breakfast, you could spend a whole weekend at Indiana Beach. I was just there over the weekend, had some tacos. It was fantastic. The band was great. It was a good time, and you can't beat it. But go ahead, Walt.
Here's the question I wanted to put to you and your audience, and that is, obviously, children love Disney World, and it was really built on that, the idea of young people. But there are a lot of adults who like it, and they've had homosexual days at Disney World, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had certain days it was strictly adults, no kids. Well, what do you think of that?
Well, and I always mention this about Indiana Beach. If you were, so in the case of Indiana Beach, if you were an adult that wanted to go to Indiana Beach without having to deal with those pesky kids, Saturday, September 6th, you can go for hops and coaster drops, where you can go and go on some rides and sample all sorts of microbreweries and different libations from here in Indiana. So if you want to get drunk and go on a roller coaster, which sounds like a bad idea, you can do that on September 6th at Indiana Beach. But I think it's interesting, even the idea, while we're talking about cruises, the idea of people wanting to take are like adults-only cruises and things like that. So I think, to your point, that if there's again, capitalism, right? If there's a market for it, it will work itself out. People will find a way to make it happen.
This thing on September 6th, do you have to buy a ticket in advance?
You do buy a ticket in advance, and if you want to go, I would say leave the turtleneck at home because it will still be warm at Indiana Beach. But if you did want to go, I would highly recommend it. You can walk around, meet a lot of the Indiana microbrewers, a lot of local places around the state will be there. Sampling, different beers and hard liquors and things like that. And you can go on the new roller coaster. And well, I think that'd be great. You come down and you and I are going to go try out the new triple loop roller coaster. What do you think of that?
How much are the tickets?
Good. Well, here, he's got all kinds of questions. Here, let me find out. I'm going to pull it up right now.
I'm helping you market.
You are marketing it. Yes, it is. $61 with fees. So $61 gets you into the park, gets you unlimited, reasonably unlimited samples of different distilleries and breweries around the state. So you get to go there for the day. No kids. You're paying $61 to have the park to yourself with no children. Music, drinks, all kinds of fun.
When does it open up? When can you show up? 9 o'clock in the morning?
You can show up at well, it goes from 1 to 5. Is the actual event. I think you can get there a little bit earlier. Usually the park opens up at 10 o'clock. But, again, it's a good time if you are an adult that wants to avoid children. That's a good option. So, but Walt, we do have to take a break. I do have to do all the legal stuff. So I appreciate the call. Thank you for calling back, Walt. It is 8:03 in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond, Indiana. Go ahead. Everybody do your thing. Go ahead, Bob. What say you?
No.
We should take a break and we'll reset.
So I got thoughts after.
Okay, he's got thoughts. We'll be back with more after this. It is 8:08 in the music in the morning.
The music.
Everybody
the music
just
is
keeps
so bad.
Everybody keeps messaging me about the music.
Oh my god.
We're on YouTube. We're kind of experimenting, but we're on YouTube, which means we have to play royalty-free jazz music.
We'll find something else.
We'll figure it out. There's ways around this. I'll talk to the boss. Well, that's he was asking me. He's like, "Here's what I'm going to do. You figure it out." And now I'm going to add to my list. I'm going to start a new list of music on YouTube. I think I have a solution to that. We'll work on that. So that'll be on our list as soon as I fix the phone
studio
system.
band.
Yeah, just a live band. No,
Regent Bandstand.
Here's a funny story. I've worked with people. I literally had a musician. I worked with church. I do all kinds of church work and stuff like that. We had a musician come in. She sang her own song, and her own record label flagged her. And I wrote to them. I go, you not only aren't promoting your own artist, you got us a strike. Like, they're like, we'll fix it. It took like 3 months. It's like you're literally you can't sing your own song on YouTube without getting dinged. It's amazing. So it is 8:09 in the region. You're
do the radio, legal, traffic, weather stuff,
well,
because I got to defend my Disney here.
Okay, so a lot of people are chiming in. A lot of weird adults are chiming in, defending Disney, and that's fine. Let's take a quick look at traffic and weather. Traffic surprisingly light here in the region. Mark from Hobart chimed in. They're doing some work on I-65, as you know. I-65, just assume it's under construction forever. They're going to start that flex road eventually on 8094. So it's like, hey, 8094 is green. We got to do something about this smooth flowing traffic. We should add an extra lane and reverse it and whatnot. So not much going on here in Northwest Indiana. You've got your trip downtown looking pretty normal. You got a little slowdown at the merger, as Tony Panic used to say. Other than that, things looking good. 294, you've got that usual slowdown in the at the Indian Head Park, Willow Springs construction zone. Other than that, things looking good there. Joe, how is the weather looking?
The weather is looking great. Monday through Wednesday this week, it's going to fluctuate between the highs of 88 and 92 between the 3 days, with periods of sun and maybe some thunderstorms in the afternoon on Wednesday. As for Thursday and the rest of the weekend, the temperature will drop to 81 with a high of 77 on Friday. But there will be spots of thunderstorms basically throughout the rest of the week, so make sure you guys wear your raincoats. And that is your quick update for weather.
Wear your slickers. Okay, so here's a funny thing about radio, Bob. Bob Starkey here joining me. I can talk about the debt all day long. I can talk about Epstein. I can talk about anything, and nobody cares. As soon as I mention my disillusionment with Disney, all the phones start vibrating. The phones are ringing off the hook. You're getting shots have been fired. As soon as I mention my disdain for Disney, all of a sudden, all the lights are lighting up. There's people outside protesting. There's people with mouse ears outside the windows, banging on the windows. I have awakened a sleeping giant. So why don't you tell me a little bit? What are we hearing from people?
First off, everybody's telling you to can it, but I also think that they may not have been listening to the radio. They just in general know that Chuck is on the radio, so Chuck needs to cool it for a second. I will say that your $7,000 quote for a Disney trip is bogus.
Okay, just literally that's what AI tells me.
Well,
and so AI is now in charge.
AI. So and Becca, if you're listening, I'm not going to hit add to cart or continue.
No, let's go to your bank account right now. Let's see how much you spent. Let's pull up your credit card bill. Let's go line by line and see how much you spent.
You can go. So our family. So there's 3 of us. Okay, so they say a family of 4. Okay, you got 2 adults and a kid. You can go. We can leave on Thursday. We can get a ticket for each of the 4 parks in Disney. Stay at the Disney's Pop Century Resort for $2,600. Or you can add the dining plan where your food is included. You don't have to worry about food. Your food is included for $3,300. So for less than half of that $7,000 bogus thing, now you do got to get there. But
so I'm on mousehacking.com.
Oh, okay.
Which I assume is either a website
reputable place.
Which is either a website for mouse hackers or it's a website on how to get good deals at Disney. They are saying our baseline Disney World vacation for a family of 4, 2 adults, 1 child above 10, 1 under 10, costs $7,000, a $355 per person per night in 2025. That includes everything. So for a family of 3, this trip comes out to $5,600.
Well, where are you staying?
I assume
they have all different levels of
a 5-night stay at Pop Century, whatever that is. Is that a restaurant? Is that a hotel?
Okay, so here we go.
But again, okay. So regardless, we're arguing the
regardless
semantics
of
here.
your bogus numbers
From mousehacking.com,
to which the basis of your argument is on.
I would trust mousehacking.com before I trust Bloomberg, who tells me you're not going because of climate change. But the core of my argument is this idea that it is becoming unaffordable for people to go on a trip like this. And instead of saying, hey, maybe we should look at, the debt, maybe we should look at the M2 money supply, maybe we should ask why our dollar isn't going as far. Bloomberg says, no, it's none of that. It's not because you're broke. It's not because of inflation. It is because of climate change. And that's where it gets insulting. It's one thing to go, hey, look, it's an expensive trip. We understand everybody can't afford it. No, it's not because of that. It's because of climate change. And that's where it goes from just absurd to ridiculous. But go ahead. I'm going to let you talk for a while.
No, I was just going to say, you can look right here. You don't need to go to Mouse Hack.
Okay.
You can hit continue. $3,000.
Hey, let's hit continue. Give me your credit card number.
No, I don't think so. Becca's probably cheering you on right now. No, so there's your resort. There's your 4-day tickets. There's your dining plan for 2 adults, 1 kid.
Okay, so you're $3,000. How much is your flight?
I don't know.
Well, there you go. You buy points with that. Like I use my points.
Yeah, I use my points.
Everybody, I didn't pay for it. I use points. I use my rewards. Yeah. It was free money. It was free reward money on my 18% credit card. It was free money. It's free points. I put everything on my credit card at 18% interest, and I get points.
But if you pay it off, you're not paying the interest.
Nobody pays it off. That's the problem. Is everybody goes, just use my points? Okay. Do we have calls? Everybody's tuned out. I've tuned out too because but again, it's funny because as soon as
everybody's working.
It's 8:00. Everybody's at work. Paul Goddard, who is at work, I told him call in. He says he's busy with the coils and whatnot. He says kids and families are changing. They don't care about that anymore. He said, give me tech. I mean, this goes back to a bigger issue. We talk about even the movie theaters. People aren't going to the movies like they used to. People aren't going go-karting and miniature golfing because more people even like. What did Matt, you said, he said, what did you do for your birthday? He's like, I stayed home. I stayed home and didn't do anything. I saw a thing the other day about millennials or Zs or whatever you guys are. They're like, why would I go out and pay all this money to like go to the club and do all the things? I can just stay home and play the Fortnite with the bros. Like that's
this weekend. So we did, for those who are listening, we just, my wife and I and my family, 10 of us, we just got back from Disney trip. And this weekend, everybody asked, what are you doing this weekend? And we joked, we said, we are enjoying our mortgage.
Like we are enjoying the air conditioning.
Yeah, and so we
are washing clothes.
At home and cleaned.
We were cleaning up. We're seeing what's been destroyed and what needs to be fixed and things like that. But again, that goes back to, that becomes, and I have this argument with my wife all the time about this idea of, paying your mortgage or paying for experiences. Like what would you, I shouldn't say this. I'm going to say it. Like I was driving through a trailer park the other day and I was noticing all the nice cars in the trailer. It's like, look, go down. It's like you made a decision. You decided I'm going to live in a trailer. I'm going to have an expensive car. Like that's the decision that you made. I'd rather have, and again, there are people I know that their life is vacation and then come home and plan the next vacation. And it's like, well, what else do you, like, what do you do? Like what, like this is like, oh, I need a vacation for my vacation. Right. I mean, this is me. Like, I have got such a good life coming on WJOB every Monday. I don't need – this is my vacation. I get to come here for free. I don't even get paid. Well, at least, Joe, at least you get paid. We do this for fun. But, like, to me, this is what I enjoy doing. Like, I would do this before I go fishing.
You're not getting paid?
I'm not getting paid.
Wow.
Joe's like, I get paid. The boss is –
I see the boss walking in.
Yeah, maybe he's here to give us paychecks. At least we don't have to pay to come here and pay for breakfast. It didn't cost me $900 to come to breakfast.
I don't get paid.
You don't get paid?
I mean,
I thought you get paid.
The internship was supposed to end on Friday.
Okay, well, you're getting paid today.
Maybe.
I
don't know.
Just clock in.
I'm keeping my eye.
Just tell them the show's off until you get your paycheck, like until you put your clock in. Okay. So I don't know. Are we gonna keep talking about this? I don't know. I can talk about ice raids. I can talk about Disney. We can talk about.
No,
whatever.
we're good. I will make a couple of like cleanup points here.
Okay.
One, I think the reason why people aren't going to the movies is because movies are woke garbage half the time. I'm not going to spend $60.
Thank you.
To go and get preached at. I had heard. Now I'm a Comic-Con guy. I love comic books and superhero
you're
movies.
A nerd.
I love all
you're
that
a nerd
stuff.
into these things.
I'm a complete nerd on this.
Yeah.
And I had heard. I have not seen the new Superman movie, but I had heard they changed it from truth, justice, and the American way to now Superman says something goofy like truth, justice, and good things, or something like that. And it's that type of garbage that, I'll watch it, I'll enjoy it, but maybe I won't go to the movies and see it. Maybe I'll catch it when it's on.
Go ahead, Joe.
Netflix.
Chime in, Joe. What are your thoughts?
I personally, I don't know. I don't like, if there's a movie that I want to watch, I enjoy going to the theater. I think it's a good time to, like, my dad's a huge Superman guy, so I went with my dad and my mom. And it's a good time to spend, it's a good way to spend time with them, especially, it keeps everyone occupied. You're supposed to stay off your phone.
What did you guys eat while you were watching the movie?
Just some popcorn.
Did you bring some pizza with you or something?
No, we had dinner before, so we just had
Oh, okay. That's why just bring the dinner with you. Get it to go. You go to like Giuseppe's over there and say, "I'm just bring the Italian food in. We're just gonna we're gonna camp out here in the movies and eat dinner."
There are the thing that I don't like about Indiana is like there are so many premier theaters in basically everywhere except for the region.
Yes.
Yeah, you get recliner seats. Even there are some
the Imagine theaters. They've got one in Frankfurt and one in Port County. Amazing, top notch. They're fantastic. Decent food that they'll deliver right to you. For theater food. I don't know why our local theaters haven't.
We don't even have reclining chairs.
There ought to be a law, Bob. Why isn't the town council getting on this? Why does Dyer not
Cherville? Call in Cherville.
They're too busy dealing with the chickens.
I have a bone to pick with Cherville because I've been starting to go to the movies more, man. I think movies are starting to make a comeback.
You think so?
I hope so.
So, okay.
No.
Here's the thing. Did you?
There's about to be some wisdom dropped when Chuck goes, here's the thing.
Did you find that the movie was preachy at all? Did you find that there were these undertones about Superman being an illegal alien or something? I mean, he literally is an illegal alien if you think about it.
There definitely were undertones of that. They had, I can't remember the country, but there's a huge like political debacle, which was like the whole reason why they were trying to go against Superman, and it was very much like similar to the Israel kind of.
They're like, Superman, can you? We ran out of bunker busters. Can you just fly into this cave and blow up the Iranian centrifuges for us? Is that literally what happened?
That's the beginning of the movie.
That's the plot of it.
How did I know that it was going to be about?
Well, they heard your rant from
right. They're like, hey, let's work in bunker busters.
You might be a huge fan of Lex Luthor then, because he's a huge hater on Superman and basically anything he's standing for, and he's also has no hair.
Who was the original? Was Gene Hackman the original Lex Luthor? I'm trying to remember. Wasn't he? Was it Gene Hackman?
I think so.
See, now Gene, like that's who I would look at, and I'd say, look, that's a good Lex Luthor. So I mean, somebody was talking the other day about some actor that's been typecast as basically just some dude that's like always in a bad mood. I'm like, I'm available. Call me. Let's do a screen test. Like I would be perfect for one of those guys that just always upset. Like, why are we doing this? Like.
Just like one of the colonels that just doesn't agree with anything the superheroes are doing in the war room. Yeah.
No, I would be like that guy that's like, oh, now we got to clean this up. Like, they would come back like, do you know how much collateral damage? Do you know how much our insurance costs? All these cars that you're smashing. Do you know how much it costs? Do you know how much our insurance is? Do you know how much the settlements are going to have to pay out all this money? Like all these people, you blew up their apartments. Like you threw, I don't know, Godzilla at their apartment. Do you know how much this is going to cost?
I love a good Godzilla movie.
Yeah, they bring it up in the movies now too, especially superhero movies. I think after he gets in, he loses the battle like right off the bat in the movie, and they're
against the Iranian mountain.
No, I don't know.
Did he lose?
How does Superman lose?
I don't know how he lost.
Because it's woke. Because he loses now. That's
Lex Luthor. That's what I don't like. It's always like they lose and lose and lose and lose until the end, and then they win. But they talk about how he cost the city like $220 million.
It's like we gotta, damage. You know how much you have to pay out on this? Yeah. Like, yeah, no, I'd be that guy. Like, it'd be like the guy like in Ghostbusters, Robert Peck or Walter Peck. I'd be like, do you know how much this is going to cost? Like, do you know how much your little charade is going to cost the city?
Someone needs to. I couldn't imagine what the national debt would be like if we had superheroes.
Right. It's like, okay, so you saved us. He's like, it's like
if that's not the line of the show,
I'd be running the money. Like, look, we're better off just letting Godzilla do his thing. Like, you just cost us $2 billion. Like, it would be cheaper just to let him roam free as opposed to trying to stop him. So, okay, why don't we take a break? We'll reset.
We don't have to take a break. I mean, do you plan on going past 8:30?
Let's probably. Yeah. Why don't we?
Cool,
well, let's take the call. Let's take the call first. They're already waiting. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
This is Elmo.
What?
Yes.
What?
I did put out the list.
Oh, is this Mickey?
I requested. No, this is Elmo.
this is
Oh, it's Elmo.
He
So
just got done tweeting.
Elmo. So what's going on, Elmo? Yeah, I agree with I agree with you, Elmo. Elmo called for President Trump to release the Epstein list on a now deleted tweet on X or whatever we call it, X on tweet. So what are your thoughts on this Epstein list, Elmo?
Elmo is only 3-year-old. He doesn't know anything about Epstein, but he thought it was a pizza party and he went once.
What? You got to work on the.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? My voice. I kind of lost my voice this morning. I have not had my coffee yet, and I was doing it absolutely perfectly for you about 20 minutes ago, and I got caught up, and I apologize.
No, but okay. So again, this becomes a perfect example.
Did Elmo
of,
say that he doesn't know anything about it, but he went there for a pizza party one time?
Yeah.
he went to Diddy's house.
I'm glad you caught that. Yeah,
I was watching. You know what? I was watching a South Park episode from like 20 years ago, and they're talking about Diddy. And it's funny because it's like one of these things where when you're in the back end of the stuff, you're like, look, everybody knew what was going on. Everybody, like Weinstein and all this stuff, like all this stuff. It's not a secret, right? It's like these are the worst kept secrets, but nobody does anything about it. So again, like with Epstein, I don't know what's going on there, but there's clearly a paper trail. There's something weird about a guy who comes up from nothing, and all of a sudden people are like giving him condos, and then he I don't have an island. Like if you're like a guy that owns an island, you're coming. The IRS is like watching me for spending $800, but then this guy has an island and nobody asks any questions. Like this is where I'm like, okay, something weird here. But, okay, going back to Elmo, this idea that, Elmo, I was watching a thing the other day. Did you know, Bob, here, interesting fact of the day. Walt was talking about the shuttles earlier. The Challenger disaster, originally, they wanted to take Big Bird to space. So Big Bird, what's his name, Spinny, was originally slated to go on the shuttle Challenger, and somebody at NASA goes, hey, how are you going to fit an 8-foot bird in the shuttle? Like, we hadn't thought of, again, because NASA's run by the PR department. Like, just throw Big Bird on the shuttle. What's the problem? Like, well, the seats
Could you imagine?
Right,
Could you imagine that?
Right.
On a very special episode of Sesame Street, Big Bird blows up. Something like that. It was hard enough when Mr. Hooper died.
Right. Yeah, could you imagine? Look, it was a national tragedy, but can you imagine what a weird timeline that would have been? Like Big Bird was blown. I mean, the Big Bird movies were hard enough to watch as it was. They put him in a cage and painted him blue. Like, can you imagine? Like, just
so that was devastating.
Right, that was sad enough.
That was awful. That was dramatic.
I'm not making light of anything. It was a terrible tragedy I watched as a kid. But it's like, can you imagine if Big Bird had been blown up in the Challenger? Like, what a weird.
Did they bring him back in following episodes, or is he just off the show then?
Well, the guy who played him was going to be in the costume.
Well, I figured, but you could always replace somebody in a costume.
His name's Robert Spinney or something like that. He was going to be on the Challenger, and then at some point they're like, "Hey, we don't know if he can fit in the seat. Like, are you?" He's like, "You're going to make me dress as Big Bird for an entire week? Like, I don't know if this is going to work." But anyway, okay. So anyway, go back to Elmo. So yeah, so Elmo's tweeting to President Trump, release the Epstein files. This is exactly the kind of thing that makes the right not want to fund public broadcasting. I guess things like that. It's like Elmo should not be tweeting to the president. There's certain things that you should not be getting involved in. And as a parent, I go, well, why are we getting involved in politics, right? Like, you should be even like, I forget, there's this lady on YouTube that everybody's being critical of because she was like a YouTuber for kids, and now she's talking about Palestine and stuff like that. Is it Miss Rachel? Is that the name? I don't know. But again, shots fired if you're a Miss Rachel fan. But this idea that you're educating children and then you bring your politics into it, right? So.
Rachel Hunter, maybe.
But
hey, what about this? What about the list, though? Okay, let me play conspiracy theorist here for a second, okay? There's another word I can't say this morning because my tongue has not woken up.
Okay.
What if somebody's on the list that, I mean, obviously, okay, I'm going to say this and everybody's like, well, they don't want anybody to know this. But what if somebody's on the list who's really not supposed to be on the list? Like, supposedly they're already dead. Just think about that.
Right. Well, there becomes this interesting, again, my point earlier was at this point, the conspiracy has become bigger than the act itself. Like the conspiracy of covering up the act has become bigger than, again, the act was, we think it's horrible because nobody's told us for sure, but we think what happened was bad. It's like the conspiracy around it has grown so large, it's almost worse than what happened itself. And then you ask yourself, how is it possible that this can be covered up? How can this go away unless the people on the list are so high profile? We're talking about, leadership in Washington. We're talking about, princes and leadership across the planet. Like, who knows? And that becomes the question. It's like, and there are people, I was listening to a podcast over the weekend and somebody said, why don't we just drop this already? It's like, wait, if the planet is run by pedophiles, I don't want to drop this. And if they're not, then put it out and exonerate yourself, right? I mean, that's the thing. It's like, this is not like, a politician getting a DUI or speeding. Like, this is a little bit bigger than that. Like, this is not something, and the fact that even the president goes, oh, well, you guys still talking about this? Like, there is this push to make this go away, and we're not making it go. It's weird to me that tens of thousands of people protested Elon Musk, and yet I don't know that there's been, other than a few people at one of the trials, there's been very few Epstein release the list protests. Like, that's weird to me that we can't all come together and go, hey, no, we're not dropping this. Like, we're not dropping this, and we're not moving forward until we get to the bottom of this.
Well, and there has to be a list somewhere. How? I mean, they arrested Epstein. What's the
Ghislaine Maxwell? It's like, well, what is Ghislaine doing 20 years for if there's nothing happening?
I was going to say, why is she in jail?
Right. Why did he hang himself if he was guilty of nothing? If he did nothing, then he just like, I'm going to wait till like, why would you hang yourself if you're going to go to trial and there's no evidence? Like, we're saying, it's insane. It's insane that you're going to tell me these things. So, but hey, we do have to take a break because
Chuck, I don't think anybody else caught your quick jab there earlier when you said, yeah, I have the list. I have a partial list. I can post it, but I don't want to hang myself.
Right. I mean, I have somebody posted his contact list, and I'm going to say there were some high-profile people on there. I was joking with Bob that his black book is out, and there are phone numbers on there. I'm like, we should just start randomly calling some of the phone numbers on the black book, and if somebody answers, that pretty much, I said, if somebody wants to Facebook Live themselves calling these phone numbers, and let's just see who answers. Like, if it's, you know what I mean? Like, I have the list, I have the flight logs, but I don't want to hang myself. I enjoy coming on Summer of Chuck. Maybe that'll be the Summer of Chuck finale in August. I'll post the Epstein list and you see how long until I hang myself, because the lists are there. It's just the question of like, why is it that I have all these I've had the flight logs for years. Like, why is it I have this stuff and yet I've never seen it talked about on CNN or Fox News? I've never, you know what I mean? Like, I've never, why is that? So, but I'm getting all worked up. I got to take a break. So I appreciate the call. Let's take a break. We're going to be on for another 20 minutes or so. The last segment. So if you got to chime in on anything, whatever you want to talk about. If not, I'm talking about ICE and what's going on with them. So we'll be back with more after this. Oh, yeah, that's some good jazz right there. 8:35 in the region. You're listening to Bob and Chuck's Jazz in the Mornings here on WJOB.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Smooth Jazz on WJOB.
We should do the whole segment like this. Smooth
We
jazz.
should. This is how they talk on NPR, isn't it?
We should, if the boss wasn't here, I'd smoke cigars in here, and then we just smoke some pipes and just do that.
I do want to. We're getting the caller thing. I want to say one more thing. I'm going to tie in Disney and NASA. One of the coolest things that we saw out there. We were on our cruise. One of the SpaceX Falcon 9s had just landed on the platform and it had passed our cruise ship. And the amount of us middle-aged guys that ran to the starboard side of the ship to take pictures. I got pictures I posted with it. It was pretty cool to see the Falcon 9 just
and the
landed
best
there.
part of that, I didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
Now you're hitting, besides Mickey, now you're getting a NASA and their $26 billion budget. You're going to get me all worked up. So
Pretty cool.
Okay. Let's take our call. Good morning, caller. On the
caller.
Oh, my gosh. Where is Mad Mac and his defense for Donald Trump today? I mean, what's going on? I'm sorry, but this is getting pretty chaotic, isn't it?
He sent me a message 12 minutes ago. Says, take calls, you somethings, you blankety blanks. So he may be on hold.
Of course, I know, I have to say, is this just one incredible story here? It's just all falling into place. And, I really got to say, there's a lot of rumor on the street that the big thing is Trump's going to resign. He's going to be caught in did anyone talk about that yet? All the chatter about him resigning and the guy there's a guy out there that's predicted like 70 things and he's been right about every one of them.
Look, I heard if he sees one more No Kings protest, he is going to resign. That's what I heard the other day on HuffPost.
I think it runs in always perfect. They're going to create a false World War III. I mean, because let's face it, they're really good at making you think a lot of things are going on that aren't, and I won't even get into things at NASA. But they're going to make it out perfect. They're going to say that we all need a big, huge coming together, and it's all going to be a world currency. I mean, it's going to be either a Bitcoin or something. I mean, it's crypto week. Everybody told us this was for pornographers. It's crypto week.
What happened to Bitcoin yesterday? You want to tell them or should
I think it broke an all-time high. I think it broke an all-time high against the dollar, which everyone will say the dollar is so strong and so awesome. And yes, we hope it does stay that way.
What is it? It's down 20%? What is it? I mean, the dollar is down, Bitcoin is up.
Yeah.
Trust the graph.
Doesn't make sense.
Okay.
But people will tell you that are defending Trump that it isn't worth anything, and it's absolutely, and the dollar's this, and it's like, but they'll never tell you. They'll never argue with you. If the dollar was so good, why did all these alternatives pop up? So go ahead, Chuck.
Well, okay.
Take it away, Chuck.
Okay. So I want to take a breath for a second. I'm trying my best to not get worked up. Trying to keep it smooth and jazzy.
And the Monday and this,
yeah. Okay. So here's what worries me. So I was thinking about what's been happening with the ICE agents. So we've had multiple ambushes and attacks on ICE agencies and facilities. You had one. You've had ICE agents attacked. You had one that was shot in the neck. You've had people that were shot attempting to shoot at ICE agents or, raiding facilities and things like that. I wonder if, and again, it's too early to take shots, but is it possible that we look back on history and say that these these shootings and these ICE raids were like the first shots, like the shot at Fort Sumter? Like these are the first shots of the Second Civil War? I mean, this is when what worries me is when you look at it historically, that you get people so worked up. Yeah, we got the open. I don't know is Brad still there? No, he dropped. Okay, so Brad dropped. But what worries me is that you get to this point that a segment of your population gets so worked up by their media, their friends, their media sphere, that they get so worked up that they are attacking and shooting police officers. And the police officers are having to cover their faces because they're worried about getting doxxed. I was reading an article about an AI app specifically to dox police officers. And the first thing I think of is, because again, I am not a first order thinker. I play 3D chess. I said, what happens if you have a world where people are so afraid to become police officers that nobody does it anymore? then what happens? You have, like, we can't find any more police officers. And again, that's already a problem for many communities. You got to pay more and more to get police officers, but you get to the point where, like, I'm not doing this job. Like, people are walking off the job. People don't want to do it because they're afraid of getting doxxed. That to me is a new level of escalation. Obviously, when people are attacking police officers or anything like that it becomes the next level. And the question is, what are they doing? And can you explain to me, A, what they're doing, and B, what would you do? Like, what would, and I do have concerns. I've talked about my concerns about militarized police here on these airwaves for decades. I don't like specifically the idea of driving around MRAPs and stuff like that. I don't really think that they have a place. I understand why you'd have them. I don't know that I don't know that they should be in our parades and things like that. But I know, that's our society now, that your police officers need MRAPs. It's unfortunate that we're at that point. But so that becomes my concern, is that we've now escalated to a new level of violence. Bob?
I don't know that I have any thoughts on that. As someone who's on a council that is working to have, qualified police officers, it's what's most sad is you say there's a new level of violence out there, but then you also said, some of these officers, whether it's ICE, law enforcement, any of these guys here, it seems to be the bigger concern is the fear of not the criminals they're going after, but the society around them changing. So here's the fact that you've got an officer who's trying to do their job, and now there's this AI app out there that's going to dox them and say, hey, Captain, John Doe over there, he lives at 123 Main Street, has 4 kids. They go to, this elementary school or that. It's, that's horrible. So how do you combat that?
So here's an interesting tweet that, and I assume it's true, is Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has announced she's giving out cash cards to illegal aliens affected by ICE raids. So this idea that, and I remember seeing this in Chicago with the Chicago police, there was a point where they said, look, we can't do our job if the mayor and the city council don't have our back.
Right.
So even like imagine a scenario where if your council was denouncing your police officers, at no point would they go, what? Like, I'm not doing this. I don't care what you're paying me. I'm going to sit in my car and stay safe if you don't have my back. And the Chicago police officers showed up at a city council meeting, and they took it over, and they said, if you don't have our backs, we can't do our job. We're not going to do our job until you have our support. And when you have people like the mayor saying, oh no, there was no riots, and basically supporting the people that are, you're going out of, regardless of your politics, left or right, if you don't support your police, if you don't say, look, you've got a problem. You've got a problem, and your society will not survive if you don't have law and order. And it doesn't matter left or right. If you do not have law and order, your society will crumble. You will have pirates. You will have Somali pirates, in your streets, privateers. You know what I mean? Like you will have chaos. You will have anarchy if you don't have, and as an elected official, that's like your one job, right? Your one job is to make sure we've got a working fire department, police department, pick up the garbage, and that's your basic one job, right?
Yeah, and without a fundamental base layer of public safety, you can't build anything. Right. You just can't. You can't establish a business.
No, you can't establish a family. You can build things; they will constantly be torn down again. You will just be in the cycle of let's build it, and then somebody will deface it or burn it down, and then we'll build it again. Because that creates jobs, though. You have to understand that's job security. Dig a hole, fill a hole, dig the hole again.
But enough about I-65.
But enough about the flex roads. But so again, I don't understand, and this is why my argument going back to this idea of. Going back to my original argument, which was what? Why am I paying for ICE to go to California if nobody wants them, right? I mean, and if they're not, now I can say, and they're not safe. People are throwing out tire spikes. They're shooting at them. They're attacking them. They're posting their whereabouts on apps. They're doxing them on apps. Like, at what point do we say, look, we're checking out, and you let us know when you hit rock bottom and you change your tune.
And the checkout needs to be absolutely no support from anyone.
Right.
California, if you want that, you voted for that. It's an internal matter now.
And then let the voters decide. Like, this is what you voted for.
Yeah.
You decide. You get to decide, just like you said, term limits. You get to decide at the voting booth your path forward. Mm-hmm. Because we're not going to. I think that's one of my biggest gripes with government is that we've become. It's one thing to have a safety net. It's one thing like, hey, there's a single mother needs food or whatever. Like, well, that's great. Nobody's going to complain about that. But when you go beyond safety net and you basically become you make bad decisions and we will bail you out. Then you have a problem, because that becomes a slippery slope of just you do whatever. And then government will bail you. You get into a bunch of student loan debt, we'll bail you out. You do whatever, and whatever goes wrong, we will bail you out. Like, that becomes a problem that can't sustain itself long term.
And I don't even want to get started on student loan debt, because it's atrocious to think that those of us that had already paid ours now then have to pay for someone else's. If you're getting a degree with no outcome for income at some point, how is that my problem?
Well, and even going back to the idea of, we talked about this with Larry Kay a couple weeks ago, this idea that you can look at a chart, you can look at a graph, and you can see the moment that government got involved with student loans, because the cost of education was with inflation, and then as soon as government got involved and said, here is free money to help you with your education, it went up 10%, and it's been outpacing inflation ever since. So I know, Joe, you said we got a couple calls. Why don't we'll take a couple calls before we wrap up here. So good morning, caller. You're on the air.
So first of all, to Mr. Brad Gimbel, who says the president's going to resign just because he read that on Discord.
It's a joke.
For the five guys who are sitting in their underwear counting the crypto they don't have. Yeah, make that bet, brother. But Chuck, I don't understand what your problem is with ICE, because they yanked 320 people out of there. They had 14-year-old kids on their hands and excuse me.
Go ahead.
They had 14 kids on their hands and knees picking marijuana. You can't have 14-year-old kids doing physical labor in 95 degrees heat.
And the majority of them were unaccompanied minors. They essentially were kids without parents. Their parents weren't there. And so this becomes the question. If California wants
Chuck, breaking news. California is in the United States of America. Your moral obligation is to protect those who can't protect themselves. Now, I get it, Chuck. You're not the type of guy that's going to jump out of your car and go do something to handle and risk your own physical being to help someone you don't even know. It's not in everybody. I get it. But we have laws in this country, and part of what these people are supposed to do who are on the public payroll is to protect the weak and the innocent and the vulnerable.
Okay.
And I can't have 30 guys from California who came here from another country who are known sex offenders in this country and their country anywhere near any woman on planet Earth. That's what we have to do.
Okay, so here, Mad Mac decided to take a different career path, and you are an ICE agent in Chicagoland. And they tell you, hey, we need to send some agents to California. You go, oh, sure, boss, no problem. I would love to go to Los Angeles, have rocks thrown at me, have spikes,
because
get
that's
shot
what you
at.
signed up for. I don't mean to break the news to the police in this country, but guess what? You might get shot at because that's what you signed up for. When you're a teacher and you got a bunch of kids who are a pain in the ass, stop bitching when you got 95 days off a year. You signed up to be a teacher. In exchange for your time, you have to do work. And that's what we have to do.
The difference is, in a normal, functional, rational society, if a police officer gets shot at or, God forbid, an officer gets shot in the neck like that ICE agent, normally Normally, the politicians go, "Hey, that was wrong. We should prosecute them." Not here's a gift card, and let's support the guys.
That's what your liberal idiots are doing, and the guys who are kind of lined up with your overall party,
so
the guys with the hate coming out of their hats.
So what?
But we have Donald Trump in office who sacrificed everything. He lost $400 million running to be the president of the United States. Okay. I can't imagine the level of ungratefulness that you folks do not realize the blessing that we have that man as president. I don't like everything he does, but I'll tell you what, the alternative is dramatically worse.
If his help is not wanted by the governor, the mayor, by anybody, if his help is not wanted, why should he help?
But I have to. This is the dumbest argument I've ever heard.
Why?
I feel dumber for listening to what you're saying.
I'm asking the question. Why is it your place as a conservative in Indiana to impose your ideology on Californians that apparently do not want law and order? They do not want any of those
the United States. Last time I checked, California.
Okay. Let me ask another question. Let me ask this a different way. Do you think that? And again, President Trump talked about it invoking the Insurrection Act and basically saying, "I'm taking over California." Do you think that is? He
never did that.
No. He's saying that people are saying that there's a possibility that if
people who Brad Gimbel sitting in his basement.
Reporters are asking at the White House, could he invoke the Insurrection Act? And he says it's a possibility. So that becomes a question: is what do you think the long-term effects are? Because according to my notes here, that the last time that was done was by President Lincoln during the Civil War. So to me, if you invoke the Insurrection Act and a president takes over a state or imposes his will, that to me tells me we're in Civil War II, the Electric Boogaloo.
Didn't another president do something with an Insurrection Act or some other act where he put every Japanese guy in prison camps?
Yeah, he's a FDR, the hero of the left, the greatest president ever.
Chuck, you just got done saying, and I used to play literally next to the Dan Ryan when I was a kid. We drove up and down. We would never lock our doors, and I lived in Englewood. We would put our bikes on the front lawn, and they sat there for days.
And you still live there, right? You still live there?
I wish I did, because I loved it. It was a tremendous city to live in. And now kids can just run up and down and throw bricks through the Apple windows, and no one says anything. And they go, "Oh, those poor kids. Their parents, they don't have a mom or dad. They don't have any. Their parents are probably slaves. Blah. We owe it to them. Give them a couple iPads."
Can you, as a Republican in Griffith, do anything about that in Chicago or Los Angeles? What can you do about that?
I voted for a guy named Donald Trump who's bringing law and order back, and who's saying, "Listen, we're not tolerating this sophistry. We shouldn't ever have a ship going through the Red Sea, have a little boat from the Houthis coming over there, because when they do that, we have to blow them up."
So you're comparing the Dan Ryan to the Houthis. You see what you're doing? You're comparing the Dan Ryan to the Houthis.
Well, let's see. If I go up and down to Dan Ryan and I get shot at, that's kind of the same thing, isn't it, Chuck? We have people who don't understand you cannot just lay your hands or take people's stuff because you think you deserve it. That's not how life works. And now, thank God, these people are being punished for their just deplorable behavior in society.
Okay.
Well, it's just that simple.
I appreciate.
And there's got to be men, Chuck, not guys who are overweight with bad haircuts sitting around.
Bob, he's calling you out.
Wow, yeah.
Damn, Bob. Man, he's right. Bob's right here. What are you doing? Okay. Did he hang up on him? I was joking. He didn't have, but thank you. I'm going to bring in a little American flag, and every time Mad Matt calls, I'm just going to wave the flag and just go like. But again, that's. I have come to the conclusion that I can't save the world. Right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, Bob knows his lane. He's like, I get elected. I'm taking care of Dyer. I'm not going to involve. Like Bob doesn't go in. Like it's kind of like these people in Oakland that are like, hey, let's pass a resolution decrying Israel. Like nobody cares what Oakland thinks about the Palestine-Israeli conflict. Like, you know what I mean? Like stay in your lane. Like what? Like this is the thing. Like stay in your lane. Deal with you got all these problems, and yet you're worried about the other side of the globe. Like this is let them do.
Know your role.
Know your role. Stay in your lane. That's our lesson for today. We got to wrap up. Any final thoughts, Bob?
I've got nothing. It was great to be back with all of you. I missed you the last 2 weeks, and
certainly cheaper coming here. Certainly cheaper coming to WJOB, right? Certainly cheaper. At least you could say that. Joe, any final thoughts? Go see Spider-Man?
No, my only final thoughts are that chicken kids are weirder than Disney adults.
Chicken kids are no okay. I mean, they're both kind of weird. Just saying. Okay, so hey, thank you guys for tuning in. This is Summer Chuck 2. We'll be back next week. We're gonna do this until school starts, I think, as long as the boss says okay. So we got like another month of this. I'm gonna take a week off for vacation, but other than that,
we start the 26th. P&W does at least.
Okay, so I mean, we're gonna go till like that week before, whatever. So we'll be here for another. I'm gonna try to do another month. We'll see how it goes unless we get sued, of course, by Carnival Cruise Lines or Mickey Mouse.
That one's my fault.
That one's, yeah, you're going to get sued by Carnival Cruise, get a cease and desist. So thanks for tuning in. We'll do it again next Monday. You got a full lineup of all kinds of fun shows here on WJOB. Hopefully this week is not nearly as exciting on WJOB as last week. Glad Trucker Mike's doing better. We will see you next week.